Hello, everyone. Today I'll be discussing Peaches Henry's article titled The Sentimental Artistry of Barrett Browning, the Barrett Browning's The Cry of the Children. This article, I feel, offers a powerful argument about Elizabeth Barrett Browning, her uses in sentimentality in her poetry, and specifically this poem. And she uses it not as a weakness, but as a deliberate or effective artistic strategy in her writing. Um, Most critics, especially in the past, dismiss the Cry of the Children as too emotional or too overly dramatic. But Peaches Henry kind of flips that idea for us. She argues that poems' sentimentality is actually intentional and designed to provoke strong moral, emotional feelings and provoke kind of an emotional appeal to the poem for the readers, from the readers. Um, in other words, I guess Browning uses emotion not to manipulate the audience, but kind of to motivate the audience. Henry explains that in the 19th century, sentimentality, especially when used by women writers, was often looked down on. But in this poem, Browning uses it very skillfully and to kind of draw the attention of the horrible effects of child labor during the Industrial Revolution. By focusing on the children's suffering, their innocence, and their exhaustion during this time, Browning makes her readers feel something, um, and then it kind of makes them think about the way society has changed over time and what needs to change in society. Um, One of Henry's strongest points is that the emotional tone of the poem actually demands action. So it's like a call to action for readers. She writes she wrote that the sentimental artistry compels the readers to both feel and act. This means that Browning doesn't just want us to feel bad. She wants us to do something about it. So, like I said, it's more of a call to action. She wants us to change the way that the societal roles are set for these children and what they were going through. Um, so let's talk about how this kind of plays out in the poem itself. Browning describes the children as physically weak, emotionally worn out, morally strong. Um, they ask hard questions about God, life, and justice. Henry also points out that this contrast between their bodies being broken and their spirits still resisting adds to the poem's emotional power, I feel like. For example, one of the lines in the poem was actually it is good when it happens that we die before our time. And it's kind of a heartbreaking statement to read, I guess, especially from the perspective of children. And Henry kind of argues that this line, that this aren't meant to shock the reader or out of complacency, or I guess, but these aren't just sad children. They're a symbol of national failure of the Industrial Revolution, and that's what they came to, and kind of to protect the innocence, I guess. Um, Henry also talks about how the poem connects to real political movements, um, within Victorian England. Browning was responding to government reports about child labor, and she used poetry to bring that suffering into the eyes of the public, so the people of the public during that time. Henry believes that by making readers cry or at least like feeling disturbed, Browning was like hoping to like spark a change within their society and what was going on. So, like, even though these critics used to think that the poems or the poem specifically was just too emotional, Henry shows us that this emotion was actually part of a larger strategy. The tears are meant to like wake people up. It's meant to make the readers open their eyes to what's really going on, not to just pull on their heartstrings, I guess. But to sum it all up, Peaches Henry's main argument is that Elizabeth Barrett Browning's use of sentimentality in The Cry of the Children is not a flaw. It's more of a feature. Browning deliberately uses emotional language and imagery and tone, mood, to stir her readers' hearts and pull on their heartstrings and move them towards justice for these innocent children. But Henry helps us appreciate, I feel, the sentimentality when used well can be it can be a tool. It can be a huge tool, especially even in politics, especially what was going on during the Industrial Revolution. But it was very effective in Barrett Browning's poetry, in her poem specifically. So, thank you for watching. I hope all of you enjoyed this perspective on Peaches Henry's interpretation of the poem and how powerful powerful emotion can be within literature and within poems that you read, especially when it's used with a clear social purpose, I guess. And especially when it's used to pull emotion out of a person and help to make a change within the world that you live in. But anyway, thank you.